But thank you for staying with us. It's now time for us to bring you the newspaper review, and we have with us in the studio, of course, Dr. Iyobusa Wajaren to bring us all the highlights and insight when our newspaper headlines have been done with. Thank you so much for joining us.
Morning.
Thank
you very much.
So where is your partner? You left him behind? Anyway, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's begin with the Nigerian pilot. Insecurity is a bold headline there. It says service chiefs summoned. Senate summons security chiefs over kidnappings, killings by bandits, others. Laments various kidnappings in FCT, other parts of Nigeria. Wants them to explain plans, efforts at securing lives, property of Nigerians, and other riders as well to that leading story. Atiku blasts Tinubu, says President fiddling while Nigeria burns. We also have other stories there as well on the paper. FG to ban single-use plastics, styrofoams in MDAs. You find details of that on page 5.
I knew it. All right, let's look at Daily Sun. Insecurity, Senate reps blew hot as well. Senators summoned security chiefs as reps asked Tinubu to demand more responsibility from them. You also want to look at that story there. New minimum wage, federal government inaugurates 37-man tripartite committee. And that's on page 6.
The leadership is up next. Rerun elections is above the nameplate there. Court dismisses sacked lawmakers' suit against INEC on page 7. And then the leading story, pressure mounts on service chiefs over rising insecurity. Tinubu orders rescue of Ekiti pupils as kidnappers demand 100 million naira ransom. Lawmakers summon heads of security agencies to meet with president.
And this Nigeria is looking at small arms. Interestingly, it says 30,000 small arms, light weapons, ammunition recovered in 23 years. Proliferation of firearms, major catalyst for insecurity, says Coordinated Weapon Control Center. Adopt new strategy, reps tax president. Senate summons security chiefs to appear next week. And that's the lead story.
Let's check out the first newspaper. Shetima inaugurates minimum wage committee, also making the front page. And then Wasn't insecurity is also leading as it worries National Assembly presidency as Tinubu vows Ekiti monarchs killers won't go unpunished. Orders rescue of kidnapped school children.
And the Nigerian News Direct is looking at, well, we have two frontmen pictures there, one of the president and one of the presidential candidate for the PDP, Atiku Abubakar. But it says kidnapping, killings increase, call for state policing heightens. Tinubu Oyebanji condemn killings or the rescue of kidnapped victims. Atiku calls for stronger leadership, mocks Tinubu as tourist in chief, as Senate summons security chiefs, and that's on the front page.
All right, the Standard Times is up next. It's saying insecurity after killing of monarchs, gunmen abduct school pupils in Ekiti. Sad one there. Atiku to Tinubu, step aside if the shoe is too big for you.
And Daily Asset is looking at still front page newspaper. Atiku calls for Tinubu's resignation, cites worsening insecurity, says Nigeria does not need another tourist in chief. And also looks at that story where we see APC battles Plateau Speaker over refusal to inaugurate 16 lawmakers. Speaker contemptuous of authority. And that's a riding story.
The Authority newspaper is leading with Tinubu Atiku's case, says Tinubu Atiku's war gets messier. Presidency says Atiku's comments on president reckless, cheap politics. Insists Tinubu's foreign trips are to boost economic recovery. Federal government inaugurates 37-member panel to review minimum wage on page 2.
And the Nigerian Express was, let's go to Edo for a bit of a moment. Edo Guba, Philip Schreiber, Ighodalo, Obasaki's anointed aspirant, 8 others cleared for PDP primaries. You also want to see abduction epidemic as the lead there. Minister 6, justice for slain traditional rulers, kidnapped Ekiti school children. Over 17,000 Nigerians abducted under Buhari Tinubu report says. You also see that story from EFCC front page.
The Daily Trust 20 years after 26 states fail to implement new pension scheme. Federal government private sector employees benefiting, experts urge governments to enroll workers. Pension fund assets hit 17 trillion naira. Abductors place 100 million naira on Ekiti pupils for others. President condemns killing of monarchs, tasks security operatives on rescue.
Well, let's see Blueprint, and they're printing this morning on Be Tough on decisions over insecurity. Abbas tells Tinubu, and that's the lead. Senate summons service chiefs again, meets president next week. Troops rescue 20 kidnapped victims, kill 2 bandits in Zamfara. Reps probe Plateau killing, 6 civilian JTF. You also want to see that story on where you would find CBN pays off $136.73 million verified claims of airlines.
Okay, let's check out the Nigerian Tribune. Okay, outrage over killing in Ekiti. Monarchs kidnap of pupils. Abductors demand 10 million naira each for victims. Tinubu, Olubado, Southwest speakers, Fayemi, Igboho, Gani Adams, others react as reps call for rescue of abducted students and other riders. There you can check out pages 11, runs through page 29 as well. PDP clears Shaibu, Igodalo, 8 other aspirants for Edo Guba primaries on page 29.
Now let's look at The Guardian. This time we talk about what's happening in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. That's what that graph represents with the president as chief of ECOWAS there. But lead there says bandits, smugglers, reign as sanctions hardship ground communities. And this talking about 7 states on Niger borderline. And that's on page 6. Another story there is Nigeria ranks 145 on Graft Index, scores 25 out of 100 points on page 3.
Abbas, insecurity threatening Nigeria's peace and stability, reps to convene National Security Summit as Senate meets service chiefs next week. Set aside, or rather step aside if you can't handle insecurity, Atiku. That's how the New Telegraph is leading this morning.
The Business Times is looking at inflation. Let's go just above the masthead. It will be miraculous if CBN meets its 21.4% projection. David Adonri, CEO HiCap Security, speaks about that on page 7. But Atiku still nursing hangover of his electoral defeat, and that's coming from presidency. But Lead says IMF downgrades Nigeria's economic growth, pegs 2024 inflation rate at 23%, says global economy picking up softly, but risk remain on page 2 with all the stories, bottom page. With Tinubu inaugurates National Minimum Wage Committee, Tax Committee on Social Justice, Equity, Timely Completion, says governors, ministers must attend meetings or send representatives. And that's on page 2 of the Daily Business. Let's come to Dr. Wajere now. Let's begin with the Senate blowing hot, and that's where we see Nigerian pilot coming. Insecurity service chiefs summons, Senate summons security chiefs over kidnappings, killings by bandits. We've seen what happened with the students in Ekiti, the 2 monarchs that were killed, and several other kidnappings. I mean, blowing hot. Someone would say, isn't it about time?
Yes. Now, if you look at all the newspapers today, they all lead with virtually the issue of insecurity, which means that the media is trying to set an agenda, you know, making us believe that what we should be thinking about at this present is the issue of insecurity. But the issue of insecurity virtually affects every sector, and everybody should be concerned, including the National Assembly. But anyway, I don't know what the summon of the security chief by National Assembly, what impact that will make. But nevertheless, I think it is good that everybody continue to put pressure on the security agencies and even the president, the chief executive officer of Nigeria, to make sure that we do the right thing as quickly as possible. Because the issue of insecurity is affecting everybody, you know. And there's something we are also not thinking about, which very soon, you know, might likely hit us very hard. The issue of food insecurity is a very serious problem. Now, because of kidnapping, because of banditry, because of terrorism, you know, virtually in many parts of the northern part of the country, people can't go to farm. People can't, engage in a legitimate farming business now. And I'm sure that in the next few months, we'll now start seeing the effect of that. And once that happens, when people can no longer feed, almost on a daily basis, then we can imagine the implication of that. So I agree with the advice coming from different angles that the president should double, his effort. He should sit down and think outside the box, not the same narrative that we all witnessed during the 8 years of former President Muhammadu Buhari regime. We should think outside the box. Let's see if we can be more strategic in planning, in dealing with the issue of insecurity. Like somebody said, the issue of insecurity is not something you advertise on the pages of newspapers or radio or television. Something you can sit down with security chief, find out what is actually happening and design a process, design the strategies on how you can deal with the issues, rather than talking about it, advertising it the way they've been doing in the last few days.
But it seems the president is thinking outside. You said the box, maybe outside the country. He's saying he wants to put economics first, and he's going to, create investments for Nigeria outside the country. And you can see a lot of back and forth between opposition and himself, calling him tourist in chief. Is this the way to go?
How do you begin to talk about, building the economy when you have the issue of insecurity? Because if the whole idea of traveling outside the country is to attract investors, which investors, whether local or foreign investor, will come to a country where you have huge insecurity, that cannot guarantee their businesses. So I think we should do the first thing first, and the first thing we must do is tackling the issue of insecurity. It is very germane at this point. I'm sure you live in Abuja. If you go out in the night as from 8:30, you hardly see anybody on the street. 8:30, you hardly see anybody on the street.
Places.
So they've also created fear, among the citizens, especially those who are residing in the Federal Capital Territory. Now, if we're experiencing that kind of fear in the Federal Capital Territory, where you have all the security architectures, you even have the Brigade of Guard, guarding the president of the Federal Capital Territory, then what will you talk about? Maybe in Kaduna, Borno, Maiduguri, Southeast and South and other part of the country. So it tells us that Nigerians are no longer safe wherever they are living. So, and that fear is there. And like I keep on saying, the business of any government is to protect life and property. And once you can no longer do that, you have no business being government. So I think the president should sit down and see how we can manage these situations. It's challenging, but with proper planning, I'm sure we can tackle the issue.
Quite challenging, really, because if you look at that report, captured by one of the papers, 17,000, students abducted, or generally people abducted, just within the 8 years administration, and of course, the paper says Tinubu and the, Buhari administration, and then Ekiti, that we all thought was, a peaceful state. The whole idea of why everybody should get involved, like P2B said yesterday, is the fact that it is no longer about the security agencies now. Because the thing is going around everywhere. Why would a monarch, for instance, be killed after attending a security meeting? Really? And then they got killed by assailants who we still don't know who they are. And then after that, one of the papers says, after that, then children were abducted, as if nobody is seeing any. It's really annoying for pupils, innocent children who have not committed any crime, to be taken in like that. But my worry is the president has given marching order once again, and we saw a marching order given in the Plateau case after the 24th December killings, and then after that, a few weeks after, we saw another killing and all that. So, summoning service chiefs by the Senate, and then, giving marching orders. Is there something else, really, that can be done to ensure that, we get to the root of this matter? Because it seems like the whole Nigeria is involved now.
Because it's not about giving marching order. It's about the capacity and the ability of the security agencies to tackle the issue of insecurity. You can give instruction, you can give order, but what of the agencies that is charged with the responsibilities of managing that security challenges? Do they have the capacity? Do they have the wherewithal to be able to deal with the issue as I speak to you now? The answer is no. You know, on this platform, we keep on talking about the fact that most of the security agents that we have across the country have been allocated to private citizens, you know, celebrities, government officials, and other VIPs. They've been allocated to them. So how many police do you have in Nigeria that will be able to monitor a very vast land like Nigeria, a complex country like Nigeria? How many security do you have? How many police do you have? How many DSS do you have? How many civil defense do you have? How many military do you have? I think that is a challenge. And well, I'm happy that in the last few weeks, the federal government has given that more police should be recruited, more soldiers should be recruited, and more other security agents should be recruited. Let's see whether they'll be able to build the capacity to deal with the issue. But I think we're able to look at the root cause of this insecurity. Because in every society, you must have deviants. You must have security challenges. Like somebody was giving the statistic the other day. Do you know how many do you know how many crimes that take place almost every day in New York, in California, almost on a daily basis? Go and check the statistics.
As developed as they are.
Yeah. But
with all the technology available.
Yeah, but the difference is that you know if you commit crime, you will know that you will be arrested. And at the end of the day, you will be punished. You will be caught. I mean, that is the determination to fight.
Okay, so these people are leveraging on the fact that they are never caught or they are never punished,
so
really.
when you kidnap somebody and you are asking for 100 million ransom, and that money is paid to you.
You know the annoying thing?
And those people don't get arrested.
Despite what happened in Abuja with the pursuit from the police and everything that got to the release of the girls, even though one of them died, unfortunately. One wouldn't believe that these people will still have the audacity to go after children again and kidnap them and are still bold asking for ransom.
Yeah, so it will happen. I'm not a prophet of doom. There's no guarantee that it will not happen again. It will happen again. But the point is that if the criminals are aware that once you commit this crime and you will be arrested and you'll be dealt with according to the law, other people who want to attempt to do that will be very careful. But in Nigeria, it's like we reward criminals almost on a daily basis. We don't get them to account for their criminal acts. And that's why other people are emboldened, to commit more crimes. In Nigeria today, the most lucrative business in Nigeria today is kidnapping. And that is the easier way to make millions, almost on a daily basis. You see, I think, like I said, we need to build the capacity to be able to deal with the issues. All over the world, it's not about physical policing that really matters now. It's about intelligence, it's about using technology to be able to fight crime. How come we don't have trackers across the country that be able to track this criminal when they are making such a useless demand? How come? I know there was a time in this country when the former Inspector General of Police, I think Solomon Arase, when Solomon Arase was Inspector General of Police, and they made use of technology to fight crime. So much so that if you steal a car in the Federal Capital Territory here and you are moving to Kaduna, and they're able to get in touch with you, maybe through phone, they will track you before you get to Suleja. So we need to be able to employ technology to be able to deal with the criminal activities across the country. And we have the resources to do that.
Dr. Wajere, talking about tracking and intelligence, and I think it's important we bring the view that this Nigeria brought a different conversation with their lead in terms of proliferation of arms. And I think that's a very important conversation because now it is very public knowledge that several weapons are free in the hands of, several persons. 30,000 small arms, light weapons, ammunition recovered in 2023, in 23 years, I beg your pardon. And it says proliferation of firearms, major catalyst for insecurity. And of course, you know what's happened in the past few days, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, exiting, ECOWAS, and these are borderline countries to these troubled northeastern states and other parts of the country. The worry is in your quest for intel, in your quest for tracking, how do you even look at the movement of arms and who it gets to? Because also that is one of the things that the police perhaps needs to also investigate.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not the issue of the problem we're having with some ECOWAS country like Burkina Faso, Nigeria Republic, and all that. It's not the problem. Because the problem the problem of small arms issue has been with us for a very long time. it's almost a century issue. We'll be having this problem. I think if you look at this figure, it's even underreported. Do you know how many small arms are in hand of so many Nigerians? Because now everybody believes that the security agencies can no longer protect them.
So self-help.
And they are resorting to self-help. And most Nigerians are buying guns. Maybe when they buy guns, all the small arms, they're also trying to license it with the police. So do you know how many small arms that are in hands of so many Nigerians who believe that the security can no longer protect them and that they need to protect themselves? This figure is underreported. You know, so it's a major problem. It's a major problem. And how come people are able to, you know, import these small arms to Nigeria without being arrested at the point of border or Nigerian Port Authority and all that? How come?
So are you suspecting complicity?
It's because we have a compromised security agencies.
Or the porosity of the borders?
Or the porosity of the border, yeah, fine. But I think in the past, most of the custom officers were not doing their job. But I know with the new leadership of the custom, they'll be trying to ensure that the borders are properly policed. But even at that, if you go to so many states that share border with other countries, you'll discover that it is near impossible to be able to police our border very well. Go to Jigawa, for example, Jigawa. The border between Nigeria and Niger is just like you are sitting down here, I'm sitting down there. The border is just like this. People cross with Okada, you know, and you see immigration officers there sitting down watching them. They cross with Okada. So if somebody is smuggling arms from Niger Republic to Jigawa State, for example, nobody will ask questions. You know, go to other borders, or other states that share borders with other countries. It's like that. And because of the porous border, it is near impossible to be able to control that. But like I said, with technology, some of these things can be properly
So
done.
in adherence to what you're saying, state policing is also one of the calls that have continued to be heightened. Is it also something that perhaps needs to be an emergency at the moment? Or
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, look at what happened in the Southwest, for example, where the states in the Southwest came together and said, okay, there's need for them to set up Amoteco, apart from Lagos and one other state. Other states, you know, met and decided to implement that positions. And when they did that, I think the Amoteco, for example, you know, went far, you know, to be able to deal with the issue of banditry in the Southwest, especially in Ondo State, that was championed by the late Akeredolu. Yeah. They did very well in Ondo State. But again, the Amoteco operation, you know, was frustrated by the Nigerian police. Go and ask any of the state government functionary in the Southwest who were operating Amoteco. They will tell you that the operation were frustrated by the Nigerian police. They were having clashes with them almost on a daily basis when they go for operation. And at the point the police will arrest members of Amoteco, according to the Nigerian police, for going beyond their mandate. And it got to a point, those people were frustrated. The only state that appear to have Amoteco today, to a very large extent, is only Ondo State. Amoteco that was set up in Ibadan has been crippled. Amoteco that was set up in Ekiti has been crippled.
So that would mean that...
And this Amoteco, they were very helpful in dealing with the issue of local policing. Because they live with them, so they know those who are committing the crime, and they have a way of tracking them and arrest them and hand them over to the security agencies. But when police started frustrating this Amoteco, go to so many states in the Southwest, there's no Amoteco there any longer because they have been frustrated.
Do you think if Amoteco has been active in Ekiti, probably, you know, these people wouldn't have been able to escape, so to speak?
Yes, of course. You remember the incident that happened, the killing that happened in Owo? Owo, I'm sure you remember. That incident happened. And those two were responsible were arrested. With the help of Amoteco, they were arrested. Because they live with these people in virtually all the communities and villages. They understand how these crimes are committed, and they are able to trace those who are involved. So I'm sure if Amoteco, we are very active in the Ekiti, for example, they would have been able to avoid some of these things. Because police cannot be everywhere. How many police do we have? They can't be in every community or villages. So you need the presence of this Amoteco to be able to provide intelligence, you know, services to the police to be able to get this
But Dr. Wajare, I mean, I think perhaps maybe the first inroad is to, even give the chance of state policing? Because I know that sometime in 2023, Lagos State Assembly, waded in to say to the state government that they would want them to review the constitution and then pass down that down to the National Assembly to look at state policing as a resort to, shoving up security for the country. And it's done in other parts of the world. I mean, we like to emulate the United States, for instance, which has strong state policing, policies. Isn't that a way to go? Because if we do have that, it may perhaps reduce the level of proliferation of arms in the wrong persons, and also perhaps also give the intel directly within the locality and the community where the people reside.
Well, I think there's so much agitation for the state police. I don't see anything wrong with that. But if you ask me, people have also expressed fear over state policing because if you look at the way our governors behave at the state level, they behave like emperor. They behave as if they are above the law. And there are fears among security experts that once we create this state police, this governor will misuse it for their own political selfish interests. And at the end of the day, we'll be creating more insecurity in various states rather than helping to solve the problem. So I think that is the fear. And yeah, it is easy for us to compare ourselves with the United States of America. But in the US, that's where you have institutions where even the president is not above the law. Even where mayor and governors are not above the law. But in Nigeria, the situation is not the case here. So I think there's that fear. But I think what is more important this time is the issue of this community policing. Making use of the vigilantes who are in the community to be able to serve as intelligent,
local intelligence,
local intelligence to help the security, the state actors, to security agents to be able to deal with the issue. In a situation where we now begin to, get, non-state actors, to be doing all this, it's going to be very, very, very difficult. We need to empower our security agencies to do their job. Look at what is happening in the marine sector today. Today you have a non-state actors who are now policing our marines because of this oil theft. You have the likes of Tompolo, and that should be the job of the Navy. That should be the job of the police. That should be the job of the Air Force. But today you have assumed that responsibility to non-state actors like Tompolo to be guiding your oil facilities in the Niger Delta. Who does that in any civilized countries? Who does that? Nobody. But in Nigeria, this is the situation we find ourselves.
All right, insecurity, how germane this issue is and devastating the impact is, it has actually, led us to talk more on that. But there are other issues that were reported on the papers as well. One that concerns my own sector, the environment, that the federal government will be banning, the use of single-use plastics in MDAs. And we remember just about a week ago, Lagos State also banned that. Your take?
Absolutely, I agree with that. And I think I want to commend Lagos State government for taking the first initiative. I think it's a very good step. I wish we would be able to implement it, across the country. Because if you know the health hazards of such thing, then you pity Nigerians. I think that issue has been resolved in other countries. I don't know why Nigeria.
Some countries.
Yes, some countries. So I don't know why Nigeria still has not taken action over that. But it's not too late. I'm happy that the federal government is taking that initiative, following the Lagos State government footsteps.
Because you're talking about food insecurity, and you do know that some of these things are non-biodegradable, and they also affect the soil and the planting and all of that. So it's also important. And the way people even dispose them indiscriminately is another issue altogether. But we must thank you, Doctor, for your time with us. Dr. Yobosa Owajere has joined us for the newspaper review this morning. Look